everybody. Thank you for joining us for day 5 of our winter break bird camp. Today, we are excited to have Lara Tseng with us. Lara is a 14-year-old college student. She has a passion for science and birds and hopes to become an ornithologist in the future. She is an alumni of our Research Experience program. She conducted a study on bluebird calcium consumption and published a manuscript with the Journal of Emerging Investigators. So she is a published scientist, which is incredible for being 14 years old. So thank you for joining us today, Lara.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction.
So Laura's going to go ahead and tell you all about her work. Go ahead, Lara.
So today I'll be talking about my love of birds and science and where those interests have taken me. Ever since I could walk, I've loved nature and being in the outdoors. Through summer camps from my local Audubon, I became interested in birds, though it was only a few years later that I began to take birds more seriously. My journey into ornithology began 3 years ago when I started monitoring bluebird nest boxes. This, for me, was a rather large commitment, as it required checking the nest boxes weekly from March to August. However, it allowed me to get close to the bluebirds and watch them as they went from egg to fledgling, and it also incited a deeper interest in birds. It also afforded me several opportunities that I never could have imagined, starting with the study I did on bluebird calcium consumption. In late 2019, I had become much more serious about ornithology and was thinking of performing a study with the bluebirds I had access to. As I began laying out my methodology, I realized that the 10 boxes I monitored were not enough to constitute a reasonably accurate sample size, and so I reached out to the Southern California Bluebird Club for volunteers to assist in data collection. As data collection was going on, I found out about a summer research experience that Headwaters Science Institute offered. Through this program, I was able to better understand the research process and get assistance for the statistical analysis portion of my study. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, I was able to learn about scientific writing and was able to write and publish my manuscript in the Journal of Emerging Investigators. So I've talked a bit about the groups that have assisted me with my study, but I'll also give a brief summary on what my study was about. Calcium is a pretty important micronutrient to birds as it is needed for female egg production. I studied at what time during the breeding season, essentially what reproductive stage, bluebirds would consume calcium. Because bluebirds usually have 2 broods, I also examined how consumption might differ between the broods. As I hypothesized, consumption was greatest during the nest building, egg laying, and incubation stages, and less during the nestling and fledgling stages, likely to prepare for and replenish calcium lost to the laying of eggs. However, consumption did not differ between the 2 broods, which was quite unexpected as I knew that clutch size for western bluebirds is typically slightly greater in the first brood compared to the second. Another interesting pattern I noticed was how variable consumption between different sets of bluebirds were. This suggested that different pairs of bluebirds have different strategies for finding and consuming calcium during the breeding season. Besides the direct opportunities and skills I learned from this research experience, this study also has helped me indirectly in many ways. Before starting the study, I had many interests, ranging from astronomy all the way to paleontology, and I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do with my future. While I am still interested in many things now, I am fairly confident that I want my career to be in ornithology, or at least generally in the realm of ecology. Running the study itself and writing up and publishing it in the span of a little over 2 years made me more resourceful, persistent, and resilient when facing challenging and tedious problems and situations. It also taught me in some ways to march to the beat of my own drum, as studying birds isn't exactly what is considered popular or conventional. These traits and skills have also helped me develop academically. Before my current academic pursuit, I was in middle school, where I often felt unchallenged and out of place. I realized that going on to high school was probably not the most suitable educational pathway for me, but as was mentioned earlier, I'm too young to be considered for many other options. The things I learned from birds and science helped me in choosing a different pathway. I am now a college student at the Early Entrance program at Cal State LA, one of the few places that allows students 16 and under to be university students. Here, I feel challenged, stimulated, and surrounded by like minded individuals. And in some sense, I have also fast forwarded my life, at least academically, so that I can pursue what I love birds. So, right now, I'm currently majoring in biology with hopes that someday I can obtain a PhD in ornithology. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, doing original research has made me value the importance of learning and discovery. It showed me how much I personally didn't know, and also how much humanity as a whole still has to discover. Knowing this makes me value science so much more as an avenue of knowledge creation and understanding. It also encourages me to be a scientist, and as I realize that there is more to it than reading a textbook and reciting facts, the more encouraged I am to incorporate science into every aspect of my life. Science is about constantly updating our perception of truth through empirical evidence. And while doing original research isn't what most people would consider easy or necessarily enjoyable, there is really a lot you can learn from it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Laura. That was incredible. You're only 14 years old and published. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you felt once you were published? And because it just recently happened, which was really exciting.
Yeah, it just happened, I believe, early this December. And while I was sort of, I guess, expecting it at the same time because my manuscript, it goes through many different stages, so it had already been accepted, and so I was expecting publication. But when the moment actually came, it kind of felt unreal because I guess I didn't really know it was possible for someone my age, and I didn't know it was possible for someone without really any higher education yet to be able to publish a professional manuscript. And I guess I was also really surprised because my younger self was always interested in science, but I never exactly expected to publish a manuscript, and I never really understood what science really meant and what being a scientist was like. And this kind of gave me a preview into what possibly my future career as an ornithologist could be.
Yeah, I mean, that is a big achievement. You're right. A lot of young kids do not get that opportunity. You went through the research experience that we offer, and it's safe to say that that probably helped you along your journey, right? Yeah. So, can you explain to everyone really how that experience? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but maybe just overall, how would you describe the research experience process?
For me, the research experience, it changed a lot of things about my perception of science. Going in, I had started my study a little bit, but I was still trying to shape out a lot of portions of it. It taught me about the different aspects of a study. So, going from just the initial observations that lead to a question that you're interested in discovering the answer to, and then hypothesizing and creating a methodology that actually works, and um, actually going through with that methodology, producing results, and drawing some sort of conclusion from those results. And one of the things that really surprised me was how, like, your research, like, the results don't have to be, they don't have to match up with your hypothesis. It can be completely different, and it can still be really important, impactful research. And that was pretty cool to learn. And in the end, when I had basically every part of my study done, I was encouraged to publish and write about my study. And this I hadn't expected, even though I did the entire study, because I guess I just never was expecting something like a manuscript to be part of the equation, but Headwaters encouraged me to do that, and I thought maybe that could be possible. And so through Headwaters, I had a research mentor, and she helped me with writing the manuscript and editing it, and that was especially important because I never really had to do a whole lot of scientific writing before, especially since um, in middle school there isn't really a whole lot of that incorporated into the curriculum yet. That's probably mostly in high school, and I hadn't been there yet, so it was definitely difficult and challenging, but Headwaters and the people there definitely guided me through the experience. So I didn't really feel like I was alone or I was like afraid to approach them.
Awesome. So if you are interested in potentially joining us for a research experience, we do have some slots available for spring, and we will be opening up our summer registration on February 1st. You can find us at headwaterscienceinstitute.org and click on our programs. So Laura gave us a really great introduction. You know, sometimes your conclusions and results are surprising and they're not exactly what you're looking for in your hypothesis, which is the whole point of science, right? We're always trying to learn and draw those conclusions and always asking more questions. So along with the activity that we have for Lara's talk today, we do have the opportunity for you to graph your data, draw your own conclusions, see if they support your hypothesis, and start asking more questions. So go ahead and visit our activity that is attached to this video, and you can go ahead and wrap up your Winter Break Bird Challenge. If you are just joining us today, that's okay. We have everything available for you. You can do the camp at any time, and you can continuously add that data to our Google Drive that we have available. So thank you again for joining us. I hope everybody has a wonderful new year. Thank you, Lara, for joining us today and sharing all of your insight and your experience. What an incredible opportunity you had to be published at 14 and start following your passions in science. I'm very excited to see where you go from here, and we appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today.